On the 19th of February 1945, United States forces would begin their attacks on Iwo Jima Island, which was southeast of mainland Japan. Japanese planners had concluded the next most logical target would be Okinawa Island, which was just to the southwest of mainland Japan and would allow U.S. bombers to operate from the airfields on the island and strike mainland Japan without having to stop at other islands for refueling. Okinawa was classed as a decisive island and was placed within the outer ring of Japan's inner defenses. As a result, all available resources should be utilized and, if necessary, expended on the defense of the island. By mid-March of 1945, the bulk of the Second Fleet was located within Hashirahima Anchorage, and it was under the command of Vice Admiral Ito Seiichi, and his flagship was the battleship Yamato. Along with Yamato was the bulk of the 2nd Destroyer Squadron, which was under the command of Rear Admiral Kimura Keiso on his flagship, the light cruiser Yahagi. The 17th Destroyer Division, Isokaze, Yukikaze, Hamakaze, 21st Divisions, Yasushimo, Hatsushimo, and the 41st Divisions, Fuyutsuki and Suzuki, were also present. On the 18th and 19th of March, U.S. carrier-based aircraft would attack Kyushu and western Honshu, and they would also attack a variety of Japanese warships based at Kure. After concluding their attacks on mainland Japan, the U.S. carriers would direct their attention to Okinawa on the 23rd of March, and as a result, on the 26th of March, the Japanese Navy would activate Operation Tengo. Initially, Operation Tengo was an attempt to lure U.S. task forces within striking range of Japanese land-based aircraft based at Kyushu. They would do this by moving Yamato and the 2nd Destroyer Squadron to Sasebo, where they would make vulnerable and enticing targets. As a result, on the 28th of March, the 2nd Fleet received Order 589, which directed them to relocate to Sasebo. However, at 1700 that day, U.S. carrier-based aircraft began attacking Kyushu. As a result, the Japanese carriers were within range of Japanese aircraft at Kyushu, and Operation Tengo suddenly lost its purpose. As a result of that new development, Fleet Headquarters sent the 2nd Fleet Order 590, which simply cancelled Order 589. Vice Admiral Yugaki Matome, whom had previously commanded Battleship Division 1's Yamato, Musashi, and Nagato in October of 1944, had been stationed as Commander-in-Chief of the 5th Air Fleet since February of 1945. On the 27th of March 1945, he would recount. Based upon a combined fleet order, the 1st Attack Force is going to leave the inland sea at noon tomorrow and head for Sasebo. Its object of stimulating the destruction of the enemy remnants can be somewhat appreciated, but its favorite trick of trying to lure the enemy task force out by sailing south off the east of Kyushu so as to let the 1st Attack Force hit the enemy task force is laughable. He would go on to discuss several instances where the Japanese Navy attempted to lure in enemy task forces with bait. He would then state, "When we thought they bit the bait, it was only a coincidence. The standby position of the 1st Attack Force in the inland sea is suited now as before, particularly in view of the present lack of fuel." It became painfully obvious that there was no backup operation for Tengo. As a result, Tengo was placed in limbo until a new directive could be found. Fortunately, or unfortunately depending on how you look at it, the Japanese Navy didn't have to wait long, as on the 1st of April, U.S. forces began landing on Okinawa, and they would quickly take 2 of the southern airfields. Japanese resistance had initially proved minimal. This was intentional. But Imperial General Headquarters would quickly get nervous and ordered the 32nd Army to conduct a counterattack on the 7th of April. This is where Operation Tengo was reorganized. It would now be one in 2 major naval operations that would take place between the 6th and 8th of April, the other operation being Operation No. 1, Floating Chrysanthemum. These 2 naval operations would be an attempt for the Navy to support the Army's counteroffensive on Okinawa. Operation Tengo would see the Special Attack Force depart Japan on the 6th of April and arrive at Okinawa during the early hours of the 8th, where they would then attack U.S. task forces. Operation Floating Chrysanthemum, which would also begin on the 6th of April, would see a series of Japanese aircraft conduct kamikaze and standard bombing attacks on U.S. task forces the amphibious landings, and the 2 captured airfields on southern Okinawa. Anything that the Japanese Navy could interfere with in U.S. efforts to defend what they had already taken on Okinawa would be exploited to the fullest. All of these decisions had to be rapidly made, as the situation deteriorated, by the Commander-in-Chief of the Combined Fleet, Admiral Toyoda Soemu. Toyoda's orders also had a grim side to them, as he had specified that the ship should only have enough fuel to make a one-way trip. There was no expectation that these vessels would return to Japan. Admiral Toyoda knew that the chance of the operation succeeding was less than 50%, and he would state, "I never thought of an absolute zero chance, even though the success of this operation would be like a wonder." He had also made it clear that even if the chance of success is flimsy, one is forced to take the chance and do what one can do. Therefore, the execution of this operation was decided. The decision was very hard for me. There is no excuse for me except to state that I had to handle like that in that situation. The Special Attack Force would receive its fuel on the 5th of April at the Tokuyama Fuel Depot. However, the depot operators ignored their orders and gave the ships enough fuel for a return trip just in case their operation was suspended. While the Special Attack Force was being fueled, the Kure Naval Arsenal also received orders to send support ships into the Bungo Strait and conduct anti-submarine warfare to give the force the best chance of making it out of the strait, since it was known U.S. submarines operated within it. On the 6th of April, Combined Fleet Order 611 was sent and received aboard Yamato. It read, 1. The Imperial Navy Force and the 6th Area Army should attack with all power and annihilate the warships in the vicinity of Okinawa after X-Day. 2. The Army, the 8th Air Division, should cooperate and attack. The 32nd Army should begin the general attack on 7th with the intention to annihilate the enemy land forces. 3. The Surface Special Attack Force should depart Bungo Strait at dawn of Y1 and penetrate into the sea west of Okinawa at dawn of Y, and should attack and annihilate the enemy surface warships and transport group. Y will be the 8th of April. By the time the ships had been resupplied, the amount of oil fuel they were given was significant. The Yamato would receive 4,000 tons. Yahagi would receive 1,200 tons. The Fuyutsuki and Suzutsuki received 900 tons. The Hamakaze, Izakaze, and Asashimo would receive 600 tons. Yukikaze received 590 tons. Kasumi received 540 tons, and the Hatsushimo received 500 tons. Ammunition shortages also meant that ammunition had to be diverted from other vessels. The Fuyutsuki and Suzutsuki would have to receive torpedoes from the Hanazuki, and anti-aircraft ammunition had to be supplied to the Yamato from the 31st Division. At 1300 on the 6th of April, conferences about the operation would be held aboard the Yamato, and they would involve the Chief of Staff, Combined Fleet, Vice Admiral Kusaka. Rear Admiral Kimura of the 2nd Destroyer Squadron would later write, "The Chief of Staff, Combined Fleet, Vice Admiral Kusaka, visited the battleship Yamato, and there were conferences of the commanding officers repeatedly. We believed to confer about the operation, deliberated, and discussed our opinions, but from the conference with Vice Admiral Kusaka, we returned without expressing our opinion because it was a special attack mission. Vice Admiral Kusaka pointed out the wish of the Combined Fleet to offer the 1st Special Attack Force a way to die gloriously, heralding the deaths of 100 billion Japanese who preferred death to surrender, and I have a strong recollection of this explanation. Afterwards, the feeling was a precursor of 100 billions of total special attacks, explains everything. There is no room for opposition or diverging opinions. Today one may think how the war condition will be after 100,000 total special attacks. Theoretically, this imagination is curious, but not at the time. Nobody did think about consequences, and it was accepted unanimously without opposition. After these conferences had concluded, at 1520, on the 6th of April 1945, battleship Yamato, along with the remainder of the Special Attack Force, would depart Tokuyama and begin Operation Tengo. The fates of nearly 4,000 Japanese sailors had been needlessly sealed. But what occurred during the operation is a story for another day. With that having been said, Hopefully you've learned something new in this video. If so, why not leave a like and a comment down below? And have a wonderful day.